Welcome back, Syndicate members. It is I, Joshua Mammoth, Mermilla. I'm back like I never left with a brand new independent comic review. Tonight's selection is another pickup from the Daytona Comic Con and stars a character from my very first episode, Stabbity Bunny. You may remember him from this masterpiece, Gut Ghost vs. Stabbity Bunny. While at the con, I was able to have a chat with creator Richard Rivera and pick up a few items, like this beautiful hardback edition containing the first 6 issues, along with this personal autograph to yours truly. Tonight's book has Stabbity Bunny running amok in Stabbity Ever After, published by Scout Comics. But let's take a moment to really appreciate this bloody cover. Our story starts with Grace's mom, finishing up a fairy tale, and tucking her and Stabbity in for the night. All seems nice and quiet as they're about to drift off into sleep, when a giant portal opens up behind her in bed. Hey, we've all been there. This full-bearded wizard creeps out, and I emphasize on the creep, and grabs Grace, then retreats back into the portal. Fortunately for Grace, Stabbity quickly springs up and follows her through. Stabbity arrives in what we find out is Fairyland from this guy, on this beautiful splash page. From here, Stabbity starts searching for Grace immediately by showing her picture to these unicorns. As it turns out, the Gandalf wannabe at the beginning is actually known as the Sorcerer, and apparently Grace now belongs to him. Obviously not liking this news, Stabbity pulls a knife on Bob, the King of Unicorns, this guy right here, and slices through his neck like a hot knife through butter. The other unicorn, who made it clear he did not like Bob, offers to take Stabbity to the witch within the dark and creepy woods. Once there, Stabbity is told to follow the path to the witch's gingerbread house. However, upon entering the dark and creepy woods, Stabbity is met by this huge ogre. And even though he's not a real bunny, the ogre decides to make a snack out of him anyways. So before the next scene, I should mention that Stabbity Bunny has the power of creating knives out of thin air. We saw this in Stabbity Bunny vs. Gut Ghost, and the knives disappear after use, like in the pawn shop scene. And now that we've cleared that up, let's continue. Just as the ogre raises Stabbity up to take a bite, we see the classic big-ass knife appear, and is used to slice the ogre's hands off and turn the rest of him into ogre pate. The witch appears behind Stabbity, angry because it takes years to grow an ogre, asks why she should not destroy him. Stabbity shows a picture of Grace, and of course, she offers to help find the delightful butterball. Several spells later, the witch locates Grace. Stabbity, however, becomes a bit suspicious after finding a few items around like this backpack and this set of leg restraints. He then creates a giant meat cleaver. The witch, needing a sample of his fur to complete the spell, attempts a paralyzing spell, but since Stabbity is nearly invincible, he's unaffected. He jumps forward towards the witch, cleaver in hand. The witch was able to open a portal right in front of him, and on the other side of this portal, Stabbity can see the sorcerer's castle in the distance. Protected by the Pixies, and not the alternative 80s rock band, but these two known as Maverick and Goose. They let Stabbity know that he's in a restricted airspace, but Maverick also let it slip that Stabbity will need pixie dust in order to fly over to the castle. Well, Stabbity did the only logical thing. He grabs Maverick and dusts himself like a powdered donut. Stabbity takes flight, at which the rest of the Pixie squad join Maverick to take him out. It seems that Stabbity may be a bit too slow, so he starts to spin until he creates this stabnado, pulling the Pixies in and slicing them to shreds. He then flies over to the castle and encounters Ragyar the Undefeated. Actually, make that Ragyar the Decapitated. The sorcerer, after losing his sobriquet, yes, he actually uses that word, releases his next gang of baddies, also known as the Three Little Pigs. We have a fantastic silhouette fight scene here between the pigs and Stabbity fighting Dimacarius style. While the sorcerer attempts to drain Grace, Stabbity slices the pigs into 100% fresh pork shanks and bacon bits. He then makes a pretty bold claim: "I have more magic than you have Stabbity pointy things," and throws everything he has at Stabbity. Constantly regenerating the knives while parrying the magic, he holds out his paw to reveal one little dagger, sending the sorcerer into a laughter. Too bad that was Stabbity's plan, as he uses the infamous dagger flick, launching the dagger through the forehead of the sorcerer. Grace and Stabbity meet back up and make a run for the portal. Unfortunately, that portal didn't take them back home, and I'm beginning to think that Stabbity has really bad luck with portal travel. At the end here, Grace and Stabbity end up in front of the White Rabbit. And I know what you're thinking, I'm leaving you on a cliffhanger. But sit tight, because tonight is a
Joshua Mammoth double feature.
That's right, Syndicate members. We're diving into the continuation of Grace's and Stabbity Bunny's adventure tonight, entitled Stabbity Ever After, Wonderland. Take a look at this magnificent cover by artist Ryan Kincaid. Of course, I had mine autographed by creator Richard Rivera. Let's dive in right where we left off, with this splash page of the White Rabbit. And you may have guessed, he's running late. While Stabbity seems overly interested in the White Rabbit, Grace notices an odd arrow following her around. That's when Stabbity notices somebody, or make that something, watching you. Now you know how much I appreciate a bright and colorful splash page, and Mr. Kincaid did not disappoint with the appearance of the Cheshire Cat. Let's take a few seconds and really enjoy this amazing page. Things really pick up from here as Stabbity springs into action by materializing a sword and lopping the cat's head off. Of course, this is an ordinary cat and responds by crushing Stabbity. But don't worry, Syndicate members, being made of stuffing has its advantages. The Cheshire Cat plays a game of Sonic Spinball with Stabbity, then disappears, leaving him with mud on his face. But while dealing with the cat, Stabbity didn't see Grace being grabbed by these cards, and in classic Stabbity Bunny style, he cuts the deck. The cards threaten Grace, forcing Stabbity to surrender. And as it turns out, this guy brings manacles and blindfolds to the work on the regular, shocking his co-opponents. On the way back to the Queen, they are approached by a familiar and rather interesting character, the Mad Hatter. He has a mistaken identity, thinking that Stabbity is actually the White Rabbit, and approaches the guards while the others holding Grace bail. With a little intellect and a savoir-faire, the Mad Hatter is able to get Stabbity released. He then kindly warns us that if we're squeamish, we probably shouldn't turn the page. But don't fret, Syndicate members, I like to watch horror movies in the morning along with my eggs Benedict, so I most definitely turned the page. And you'll be glad I did. First off, there'd be no end to this video. And secondly, Stabbity shows his more sensitive side, as he takes a moment to smell a flower while impaling a guard through the chest. Unfortunately, the other guard gets the jump on him and clubs Stabbity on the melon. Not before, however, Stabbity slices him like a Thanksgiving turkey. Stabbity awakens to find himself at a tea party, accompanied by the usual suspects. Ryan Kincaid provides another spectacular page, so take a few sips of tea and enjoy. The Mad Hatter explains to our silent friend that the White Rabbit is quite beside himself, and reveals a rather clever plan to disguise Stabbity as the White Rabbit, in order to get him into the castle while the Tweedles cause a distraction. The Mad Hatter will remain there, as he, like the Mammoth, prefers his outings to be far less suicidal. On the way out, he hands one of the Tweedles a potion, and that'll be important later. So the Tweedles and Stabbity walk casually past the guards, and as the Tweedles grab a quick snack, Stabbity sees Grace. He takes the White Rabbit garb off, and all three go to work. This guy takes one in the eye, and Tweedle Scab has this guy singing soprano. More decapitations, and the classic Stabnado that we saw earlier. Tweedle Snot and Tweedle Scab also help out, but sheer numbers get the best of them. And that's when, believe it or not, the Tweedles had the genius idea of using the potion and pour some on Stabbity. And that's when we realize it's a growth potion. On the page turn, we see the Queen of Hearts yelling at Grace, and backing her up to the edge of the balcony, when Grace suddenly falls. The Queen, rocking a mighty fine ruff I might add, makes the face that I do when I realize it's not Friday, as Grace emerges atop a giant Stabbity head. Then another decapitation. Grace also pitches in, and Stabbity does a mighty fine two-step. Finally, Tweedle Snot asks to join Stabbity with the rest of the potion. The final page here is another great splash page of Stabbity and Tweedle Snot, playing a hand or two with the guards as Grace stands on her pal Stabbity's shoulder. Alrighty, Syndicate members, it's time. Yours truly, Joshua Mammoth, will now break these biscuits down with my special analysis. Let's start with what I liked about Stabbity Ever After and Wonderland. They're both fun reads. In fact, I ended up reading these biscuits several times and discovered new and funny things throughout. For example, at the end of Wonderland, Tweedle Snot mentions that Stabbity doesn't have a mouth. So, I went back through, and sure enough, he doesn't. Here, enjoy the music while I play the montage. So that really speaks to Ryan's skills in continuity. I also like the Top Gun pixies, bomber jackets, aviator glasses, and all. Secondly is what I really liked about Stabbity Ever After and Wonderland. For starters, the Mad Hatter was a truly awesome character. His dialogue was both hilarious and witty, combined with the classic look we all know and love. Speaking of dialogue, you'd think a book with the main character not speaking wouldn't have a lot, but contraire mon frere. There are so many jokes. For example, pedo, or persons for the ethical treatment of ogres, or the breakdown of sobriquet. Also, not quite as witty Tweedles deliver some pretty good ones too. There's also the tea party scene, complete with caption boxes including one for Stabbity. Finally, what I loved about Stabbity Ever After and Wonderland. Well, first and foremost, there are more decapitations in a Henry VIII documentary. Additionally, there are more fight scenes than Kung Fu Theater. I absolutely loved all the kill scenes, and don't be fooled by Stabbity's name. He also slices, dices, chops, and let's not forget the Stabbity tornadoes. Also, I need to include the Cheshire Cat, who is only in it for a bit, but you gotta love this guy. Also, love that upon entering Fairyland, it doesn't take long for Stabbity to go to town, and it continues throughout the books, and I'm so happy that I picked both up. So with that being said, I love Stabbity Bunny, and I love these books. I'd like to thank Richard Rivera for allowing me to review his work, and make sure you hit up scoutcomics.com. Go to their Stabbity Bunny and Stabbity Ever After sections and pick them up. Grab this plush Stabbity of your own for protection or when you need a clean knife. After that, hit up Gut Ghost and tell him Joshua Mammoth sent you. All of the information is down below, Syndicate Members. Well, that's all I have for you for this episode, Syndicate Members. If you're an independent artist and you'd like me to review your work, shoot me an email at the address listed below. And remember that between the known and the unknown lies the mammoth. I'll see you next time.